Back in 1962, another part of my life that made it easier for me was because my mother recognized I was getting so involved in athletics that she said, "Dear, you should try to belong to a different club in school as well and be a little bit more well-rounded. You're not getting very balanced." And of course, I had these athletic bars on my shoulder, and I'm going around like, "Yeah, is that right, Ma?" Anyway, my uncle suggested this book. He was a pharmacist, a role model, he was a pilot, and he gave us really good presents for Christmas until he got married. Why did they have to have 3 kids? I don't know. So Silent Spring by Rachel Carson was the first book that was put out about the environment. She was doing her PhD. She passed away from breast cancer, but she did all these articles about how these robins were dying in Michigan because they were recycling soil that had DDT in it, and the robins were eating the worms, and they were dying. So this was really the first time that there was a lot of really heavy environmental interest in this. And of course, I was very much interested in doing something a little weird. And I decided, besides my space models I was hiding, I joined the science club that had 4 people, president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, you know the drill. And so I was vice president and leading by example. My mother was a great person to do this. She wanted to be a teacher, couldn't do it because they didn't have the money in those days, went back and got her degree after 7 years of schooling here in Toronto in the summer. But she always led by example. And she always asked us to do the same thing. They said, "Why are you playing with that pea shooter? People will look at you and they will think that that's a good thing to do." She says, "Look at my front tooth. This front tooth was broken by a young boy who had a slingshot. I don't want to see you using those pea shooters when there are people around that will think that that's a good thing to do." Okay, Mom. So I joined the Science Club vice president, and I decided to put in this project. And I'm just giving you these little tales because I got more time than the panel did to talk about their lives. So I said to my family, "I'm going to do the science fair project." They were so thrilled. They said, "What are you going to do it on?" And I'd watched too much science fiction and read too much Rachel Carson. And I said, "I want to create a strain of flies that are resistant to DDT." It's like, whoosh. So they sent their little girl down to the local forest insect laboratory, and they said, "How long do you have before the project?" And I don't know, 3 weeks. So they talked me into doing this other project, but they also talked me into giving up my very remunerative job as a canoeing instructor at the Y for $1 a day, for working at the science laboratory at the insect lab for 6 summers, and that paid for my tuition every year. And the really good news was when I got in the astronaut program, as a woman, I was being paid the lowest, and I didn't like that. And I said to them, "How come I've got this low salary?" And they said, "Because you didn't work for the federal government, did you?" And I said, "Well, only as a summer student." "When did you do that?" I said, "Well, I did it for 6 years, blah, blah, blah. Can you prove it?" I said, "Yeah, sure, I can prove it." I always kept those little receipts, you know, on that low pay scale. I kept that. And that's the reason why I got a little bit higher salary in the space program, because I had worked at the insect lab, and it was one of the reasons why I was chosen to go on my space flight. I was the only one that had a background in insects. So I was thrilled. So just never, ever look a gift fly in the mouth.